also have the child at the final exam. Okay? Do the draw on the draw class ticket. I know all of you have not put their questions out, so you can always come down and add to the draw before we do the final draw. So I was hoping to do that in the exam review, so you guys don't necessarily have to come next week again. So I'll say everything I need to say next week. I'll say it today. And if the people that have questions maybe next week, they can come along and ask specific questions. If you started studying and need some more information. So what I'm not going to do is review lecture as such. I'm only going to talk about the exam, what's going to be in the exam, and how to study for the exam. Okay? But I'll say anything I need to say today. So maybe next week you need to start studying, and you don't need to attend. You don't have to come along for that. We'll be the same information. Okay. Business turnaround. Has any one of you ever worked in a business during which time they were going through a significant change and that could increase the business efficiency, change the way things were run? Yes? Is that yes? Was it a pleasant experience? It can be a very challenging and daunting process if you're part of a business that is undergoing a major restructure, obviously because of insecurity, the security job, changing positions. In some cases, there are cases where a business restructure is done in a way that actually motivates people and brings everybody along in this process, and you're trying to achieve a better outcome, not just for the company, but also for the people involved. It certainly is a very, very difficult thing to achieve. And I would say in some ways, it's almost like an art, you know, the people that can go into a business and achieve a restructure in a positive note and make it happen almost like an art of our business. I thought I'd run this little video to begin with. I did it last year, it was quite funny because it was right after the couple of days after Steve Jobs had passed away. But I still think it's an interesting one. So let's just run the video and then we'll have a quick chat about it.
You know, more than any other computer company, Apple continues to attract a great deal of media attention. Today is no exception. For me, and I expect for many of you, the last year in the Mac market felt like being a bit of an emotional roller coaster. You know, highs of optimism followed by troughs of near despair as Apple wrestled with its turnaround strategy. Jubilation as Apple improved and rationalized its product line and made progress with its OS strategy. And then concern as negotiations with the licensees appeared to stall. But for all the followers of the Apple market, nearly every possible solution, every possible solution for Apple has been analysed and selected. There's certainly no shortage of pundits, to give advice. Given Media, Apple's former CEO, once remarked to me his frustration with the media coverage. My response was that Apple will be facing an even bigger problem if the media stop caring. Despite all the issues and problems of the past couple of years, the passion and loyalty remain. People want the Apple Macintosh market to be successful and return to a state of sustained profitability and growth. To start us off in the right direction,
warm welcome. Now I guess I'm going to have to give a speech. I came today to give you a status report on what's going on and to try to fill you in on some of the steps we're taking to get Apple healthy again. As you know, I'm the chairman and CEO of a company called Pixar, and thank you. And I, like a lot of other people, are pulling together to help Apple get healthy again, and I am extraordinarily confident that that is going to happen.
Despite the troubles on Wall Street, some companies are doing quite well. Apple stock was up nearly 6% today, and as Ben Tracy reports, measured by stock price, Apple is now on the verge of overtaking ExxonMobil as America's most valuable company.
While Exxon continues to pump its profits with old-fashioned energy, here's to the crazy ones. Apple has done exactly what it said it would do. Think different. Apple's sales have increased 80% this year, about 10 times faster than the average company.
They are very often the company who takes someone else's idea and they execute it better.
Apple's gravity-defying stock rise from roughly $5 per share to nearly $375 today began in 1997 when Steve Jobs returned as CEO.
It just all works.
Apple debuted the iPod music player in 2001, and the online iTunes music store has made Apple the world's largest music retailer.
iPhone is like having your life in your pocket.
And then in 2007 came the iPhone. The company has now sold 125 million of them. Lately, it's this little thing called the iPad that's helping push Apple's stock. The company began selling these tablet computers last year, and they're already changing the industry.
You like everything so far?
Well, I'll try not to blow it.
Steve Jobs has reportedly battled cancer, and some investors worry what becomes of Apple without him.
I don't see a lot of reason for them to slow down in the immediate future.
Analysts now believe Apple is on pace to become the world's first trillion-dollar company. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Quality, the quality wasn't that good in the first bit, but it's sort of improved towards the end. I think what's interesting about this video is something that's really important when it comes to any turnaround of any company, big or small. And it's a cultural issue, and it starts from the top. Okay, so the CEO and the people on the top can drive or should drive change and should believe in it in order for it to be successful. Okay. Also, what I have noticed through my research on organizational resilience is that you see, and it happens in many cases, even in industry leaders, you get companies that are very successful and they reach the top in their industries and they develop those monocultures. So they start employing people that think like them, the marketers think like them, the software engineers think like them, and they develop these almost perceptions of themselves as unbeatable. Okay, and this is when they start losing track with reality and what's happening around them. And this is why you do see a lot of these companies that are very successful that suddenly go through huge falls and basically mistakes, where they keep ignoring signals, danger signals, that things are not doing as well as we think we are. Okay, and then by the time they actually start a restructure, it's usually, or in some cases, it can be too late to revitalize the company to the level where it was before. Okay, and there's a number of classical examples, like Ford Motor case, the Ford company, in the early 1900s, that they basically, created the most reliable vehicle. Henry Ford, who was the owner and founder of the company, who basically said, you can have any color car you like, as long as it's black. So back then, there was no second buyers. So people would buy the first car and would stick with that car. So his whole mentality and idea was that he could develop the perfect product to the consumer, the most reliable car, and he basically lost on the whole wave of people that wanted to upgrade him into a second car, a third car, and he basically maintained, him and his company, Ford back then, maintained their way of thinking irrespective of the danger signals and the drop in profitability, creating this monoculture. And they never really regained that power in that industry that they had back then for the leadership. Okay? And you see it happening again and again and again. Apple is an interesting company. It hasn't been doing that well, I think, recently, 2013. Is anyone aware? Does anyone follow them? So it's actually interesting what happened and what will happen now that Steve Jobs is not there. Having said that, the bigger the company is, the more fat they have, so they can afford to make mistakes, they can afford a drop in profitability and then a restructure to gain, good stakes again. Whereas with smaller companies, it can be much harder. Okay? Now, we have spoken about the different failures and the many different deaths for small firms. So yes, there can be a failure in the form of bankruptcy, like in any other business, but a lot of small firms fail, not necessarily by declaring bankruptcy. Okay? In many cases, it can be just that the owners may fail in actually launching or successfully starting the business, so they give up at the earlier stages. Okay? Or they can choose to discontinue the business for various reasons. Some of them can be personal, or because the business is not doing as well, and they might be able to do that without a loss to any creditors, so they come to an agreement to pay off all their debts, and then they close the business. Okay? And then there's cases where there is some loss to creditors, and they agree to that loss. So again, the business does not need to declare bankruptcy, and the worst case scenario is the bankruptcy. So what we're trying to cover in this chapter of turnaround is how can you actually, when you see some early signs of failure, identify those signs and restructure the business in order to avoid either one of those, okay? So business failure does not necessarily need to be, but that would not necessarily only need to be referred to the formal failure of the business, okay? These are some of the key, let's say, causes or signals of impending trouble in a business. And I wanted to sort of have a two-way dialogue about this, because a lot of these things we have discussed basically through the whole semester until now. So what kind of, what things come up to mind when we talk about ineffective management style or misunderstanding the market? Are there any things that come to mind in relation to what we have discussed? The challenges in running small businesses, the common mistakes that the owners or founders do or take part in? In terms of management, for example. What are some of the key challenges in the small business context? Things that we have discussed, I would say, assist businesses to be successful, and this is the other end of the spectrum. Anyone? In terms of, let's say, to achieve business growth and effectively grow the business as the owner, what are the kinds of things that you need to be able to do? Things you should do, like, for example, delegate authority. Okay? So, an ineffective management. So, if you walk into a business and you see that someone is not able to delegate authority and is overly centralized, it can be a signal that they might be in trouble with this business. Okay? What other things? What kind of understanding does the founder have, in addition to understanding the process of, of their industry? What other skills they need to have? Which is really further down the line. Okay? Financial skills as well. Okay? And a lot of them don't. So another key warning signal that you find working in a small business is that as business owners don't necessarily have a good understanding of the financial structures of the business. Okay? And then there's obviously things such as fraud and mismanagement, that this is her ability to effectively delegate authority, motivate their employees, whether it's a nice working environment where people are motivated, come to work. There is a link between your expectations and your promotion systems, your assessments of your employees. All these things play a role, and they ultimately can impact on the viability of the business or not. Okay? Misunderstanding the market. What can be some of the key challenges of a small business there that we have covered? Anyone? Yes. Yep, so first of all, not having an understanding of the market, what the market share is, what the goals are. So we had a big discussion around this whole system that you need to have in place, okay, to gather that kind of information, interpret it, and have certain goals, and make sure you're on track with the products, what the market needs, how your product meets those expectations, etc. What other things to do with the way you position yourself in the market? What other common challenges do you think small businesses might come across? And we have spoken about this quite a bit. Anyone? Meaning?
Meaning that you shouldn't try to satisfy everyone saying in the market.
Yes, so focus and develop your positioning clearly, and in some cases, when you do want to diversify, over-diversifying basically can be a very common mistake of small businesses, which you can see, and you can diagnose the early signs of failure there. Okay, so you're successful in this product, but then you diversify in another one or two categories of products that you do it at the same time, too quickly, without enough research. It can lead to a disaster because you don't necessarily have the resources as well to back up that as a larger company would have. Another one which is interesting is the big project. Okay, a lot of entrepreneurs have this almost legal when you talk to them, you see that they might have a business that is doing really well, but then they sort of hang up to this, but I want to create. I mean, a lot of the builders are like that, for example. They may be very successful, number of years in different industries, but all of them, they want to just build this huge building that they own. Okay, this big project that they might have in the mind, that's the end vision, but they keep pushing, and in some cases, the businesses are not necessarily ready to achieve that. So that's commonly an issue to do with misunderstanding the market and confusing what you want as to what your customers want and how you can deliver their expectations and match them with the customers' expectations. Okay, weak financial function. What kind of aspects of a business would highlight a weak, or would indicate a weak financial function? Yes? Poor cash flow. What else? Undercapitalizing your assets, the condition of your inventory, all the financial ratios that we've spoken about, overextending your credit. Okay, these are the things that you can certainly have a look at the moment you look at your business, balance sheets and financial statements, all the key indicators that we've spoken about. Mismanagement of supplier and customer relationships. Okay. What do you think about that one? Anyone? Yes.
For example, if you grant long periods payment to your customers, but you pay upfront and directly all the bills to your suppliers, then you're running into the cash flow problem.
Okay, that's a good point. Yes, very specific example. Very good. But generally speaking, if you upset a key customer or supplier, managing a relationship from that perspective. Okay, you need to know who your key customers and key suppliers are, and pay attention to them in respect to what they actually, what level of business you do with them. And that is also the same with shareholders. Okay, I was actually just having a discussion with someone over the weekend who has a big PR company and supports a lot of the sex listed companies. Okay, provides various services to them. And what he said, which was very interesting, is a lot of these companies have pay a lot of attention to the top 3 or top 5 of the shareholders. Okay, but there's a top 20 of them, which do usually account for a large number of the shareholding. And this business was actually providing service to the larger listed companies as to how can they more effectively and in a more specialized and direct personal way communicate, identify first of all who these 20 top shareholders are, and then communicate with them directly. Organize meetings so the CEO can actually present to them what they're doing, keep them updated, what the value of sharing is, what are the plans for the future, keep them engaged. Okay, so in the same way, you need in a small business context, identify do you have shareholders. If you do, who are they and how you keep them engaged. Okay, your customers and your suppliers. Does that make sense? Your key customers and suppliers. And there's one thing we spoke about in relation to that, your large or small customers. Does anyone remember what we said? It's very important to keep an eye on. Remember the Pareto rule? Okay, so we said that you need to be aware if a large proportion of the business is done with a small number of customers or suppliers, vice versa. Okay, and if that is a safe or risky position that you're in terms of how do you position yourself in the market, if you're the risk of losing those key customers or suppliers, what's going to happen to your business, and how can you reduce the risk if you can. Okay, in some cases you can't, in which case you need to invest a lot of time in that relation with that key customer or supplier. Okay, and you need to be aware of that weakness, let's say, in the business model. If you can though, you just need to invest enough time and effort to make sure you spread that risk as much as you can. Okay? Family versus business matters. What kind of key aspects of that did we cover in the family-owned businesses chapter we spoke about? What would be some of the key things that you can see as the danger signal as you walk into the business? Yes? Sorry? Yeah, so say you walk into the business, there's no succession planning, it's a family-owned business. Okay, you start to think that may be a risk and danger signal. Okay? Other things. Which is part of that, okay? But part of the family relationships that you observe in the business. So when you walk into a family business and you notice there's a sibling rivalry, okay? That's obviously can later on increase and become a real danger in the survival of the business when the parents especially, give away all the ownership. One other thing, and we did a little case on that in that respective chapter. I always look at that when I look at their business, when people talk to me about their businesses. Whether they employ in-laws. Okay? Not necessarily a bad thing, but something to keep an eye on. The in-laws involved in the business, and to which degree is that successful, and the risks associated with that, because there could be divorce in the family, for example. Okay? That would directly impact on the business success. Okay, we spoke about explosive growth, and in some way it connects to the first point of effective management style. But generally, what is the issue with explosive growth? growth? What is the key issue with explosive growth that we need to be aware of? Come again? That's right. So basically, having the financial strength to support that growth. Okay, you can have a very profitable business, but it doesn't have the working capital or the cash flow to support a faster growth. Okay, and lack of contingency planning and operating controls. This is just a general note of businesses that do not apply scenario planning, risk assessments. They don't have policies in place that make sure they're aware of some of the key risks involved with their operations, with managing staff, with legal implications, insurance. It can be various different things that this covers. Okay? So I'm not suggesting that you need to be listing all these things one after the other or remember all these things, but in some way, this chapter allows you to think about all the other aspects and all the other things that we have discussed through the semester, okay? Because of business under trouble is really a business where some of these things are not effectively operating as they should, okay? Now this is another little slide which is quite interesting, and it ties in with what your colleague said in the beginning. Really, when a business is restructuring and is in need of capital or increased efficiency, these are some of the key three things that they, the key actions that they usually apply. Okay, workforce reduction is one of them, and that's why this can be a very, very stressful situation and a very difficult one to manage in a positive way. Okay, because there are different cost exercises that you can justify in your personnel and make it a positive experience. You can show an example. You can lead by example, but it's very, very, very difficult to justify to people that yes, there is a need to reduce workforce and let these people go in a positive way. Okay. So especially in the small business context, quick cash. Okay. Which of your assets can you get rid of? How can you get some quick cash into the system if you are in serious financial trouble? Okay? Can you negotiate faster collection from your debtors, like your colleague said? Okay? And on the other side, can you negotiate with your lenders and trade creditors better terms for your credit? Okay? Which makes sense. And in some cases, cutting costs early can be safer. Because in workforce reductions, unfortunately, a lot of business owners can see that something is wrong and that they need to reduce costs, and especially in relation to personnel costs and employees. But obviously, there is a huge difficulty, emotional difficulty, to do with letting people go. Okay, and sometimes the more you delay this process, the worse it is at the end, because there's more people that you actually have to part with. Okay? So sometimes coming to terms with the fact that you do need to downscale at the right point in time is quite important. Okay? There is a article that's up on LMS, okay, which is called Commerce is Big. That's the source down there. 100, I think, turnaround or something in 180 days. How to restructure a business basically within that time frame. It's a very, very interesting article, and that's where I got this process from. So there's a number of different ways to do that. Okay, and different literature would suggest different avenues. This one is one that I find just makes sense. And basically what they're saying is that you need to change people's beliefs and experiences in how they actually do business within your organization to achieve effective change. And you need to show them how, if you change your belief around, let's say, for example, whether a team is responsible for a certain outcome or you individually are responsible for a certain outcome. So if people change their belief from, yes, well, things are not going well, but it's somebody else's fault, to I do believe that I am responsible in achieving this outcome, okay? And if they can see a link between the belief and the work experience to the actual outcomes, okay? Personal outcomes and the company's outcomes, then you can achieve this restructure effectively. So what these people are saying is, work around these beliefs, identify what are the problems with the way that the cultural issues around your business at the moment, and how these need to change. Engage with the top executives and the management, start from the top, because if the head is not engaged, then it's not going to happen, okay? And then they need to lead with experiences. So they need to change practical things in the way they do business for that to provide an example, okay? For everyone in the team and work with whole teams, impact teams into achieving that, okay? So you hold a whole team responsible for that change. Now, it's interesting, I think, and someone can debate against that, okay? Because basically what they're saying in the article is you need to work with the leaders that are in place to achieve the change. Whereas employees might think, we know this person, that's the way they think, that it's never going to change. You need to bring an outsider to engineer a completely different system and implement change. Okay, so it's an interesting argument. It actually gives you a number of examples of how you can do this internally. So, what do we mean by experiences? And what are the kinds of things? Say you need to cut, because in most cases, in business turnarounds, one of the key things that you need to do is address a financial problem and cut costs. So increase efficiency in the way people streamline the work into achieving company goals. What could be, for example, what do we mean? What could we mean by this word creating new experiences or phrase? Any ideas? Practically, say you have a large business and your managers, or in your current, let's say, business settings. What could managers do differently? I'll give you a small example, okay? Just run meetings more efficiently. And faster, with less costs, more specific, so whatever you want from your employees, you exhibit with your own behavior, okay? Cut costs by starting from the top. If there's a cost in salaries that you okay? Start by cutting the top executive salaries and the manager salaries, to a greater proportion than that of the employees. It's a hard one, okay? But you can lead by example if you wish to, okay? It gives you a nice example in there of executives flying in business classes as part of the turnaround days. Turnaround saying, no, we need to cut costs now, we fly economy like everybody else. Okay? So there's a number of things. And I won't really spend more time in this chapter. There is this article online, which you can have a look at, and the rest of the slides. Now I want to run just this video that gives you an interesting little example of what we mean by leading with the experiences, okay? Let's have a look and have a chat.
Well, for me, to be chief marketing officer of one of the largest brands, one of the most iconic brands, was a dream come true, so I couldn't wait to come to Kodak. In fact, I showed up early to Kodak, a week before I was supposed to, before I passed the drug test and all the other things we were supposed to do, because I couldn't wait. It was just a great opportunity, and it was at the abyss. I mean, in terms of, they were talking about doing a turnaround, they were talking about really doing a startup, or maybe you call it a restart, and those things appealed to me, and then I've been so excited ever since. I come to work every single day.
It's slow. 'Cause, you know, when you think about it,
fun, it's fun to be a part of it.
It's a really nice video to have a look at. Basically, what this guy is saying is the way he changed Kodak was through experience, changing the way business was done. And he gives a really nice little example whereby he wanted to clean the carpets of the company, the whole floor, and someone came to him with a quote, $3,000. And he said, no, that's way too expensive. Nobody will think you well in Perth. You would be lucky to do that with $3,000 the whole floor. So basically what he did was he went to Sears on Sunday, bought a vacuum cleaner, vacuum cleaner, went up, worked a good 3-4 hours, cleaned the whole floor. Rather than Monday morning when employees arrived to work, it was clean, all the stains were gone. Okay, that really shows you what a motivated leader can achieve. Okay, so that makes a huge impact on the way that people see their work when they see you being motivated and engaged with your work. Okay? Now, let's do this one. Everyone can have a 5-minute break and then we'll talk about the exam. The people that have asked questions, which is a lot of you, some of you have put them up, so I've got their names here. The ones that haven't, please come down now and we'll write your names. Okay? So and we'll do the draw. So only the people that are part of this, please come down. The rest 5-minute break and we'll talk about the exam. Okay? Somebody else, and this gets, I don't want to be transferred the wrong way. The department is not paying for this. Okay, so none of you is subsidizing this. I'm paying for this. Okay, so if you don't transfer to the lecturers what has happened here and it's like it's misinterpreted. Okay, so the department doesn't carry this cost. It's not much in anything, but you know. Okay, so someone that has not entered the draw, go. It's going to make a choice. Go. Pick one. Amelia?
No.
Queen B?
Yes.
Okay, and I just wanted to thank you very much because you have been a very engaged crowd, and it sort of keeps getting better and better every year with the speakers. Initially, when I started this process, I was quite discouraged by some of my colleagues that felt that an undergraduate crowd would not necessarily appreciate their speakers and be involved at this level, and they're only for master students, but I think we definitely put them, you know, to be not the case. The exam. And I've got my notes somewhere. Okay. There is 3 parts to the exam. Okay. The first part, which is 40%, accounts for 40% of it. It is a multiple choice fill in the gaps kind of questions. Okay. And if you've had been part of this lecture and you will have read the book once, I would have said you should be able to score pretty well at that. Okay. Then we have a 30%, which is 2 short essays. Now, it's a bit tricky. There's 2 questions which you have to answer. So there is no choice of which questions you take, but there is choice of what you actually choose to say in each question. So it actually is a lot of choice, although it doesn't sound like choice. You know what it is. Okay? And then the other one, the other 30% is a short case, a 1.5-page case, like the ones we've been doing in class, Okay, it's a Harvard case, but it's a very short case. And there's 3 questions which account for 30%. So the first one is identify the problem, then the other one is a bit of the analysis, and the other one is what's the option, what would you do, okay? Now, how did you study for those 2 parts of the exam? In terms of the case, you don't have to go back and re-look at your cases, okay? Because it will be a completely new case. It basically assesses your ability, what you have developed throughout this whole semester in analysing a case, identifying the problem, conducting the analysis, so it's not related with you having, basically whatever you've done in the tutorials, you don't really need to go back and re-study the notes, okay? But you need to be aware that the way we answer cases, that you definitely need to provide your suggested solution, like we have done in the tutorial. So in your analysis, in your suggestion, you might say, yes, this guy has 2 options, this, and you can analyse both, or you can write about both. But the key question is, what would you do? So you definitely need to make a choice. If you just give me the options are 1, 2, 3, and you don't really say which one you would go for and why, then you won't get credit, okay, for that question, or much credit, okay? There is no right or wrong answer, like I've been telling you throughout this semester. I mean, there is maybe one that I would prefer, but you can still get the top rating for another question answer potentially if you use the right materials and you back up your answer effectively, okay? So what I will be looking at when you see the case, you know which part of the book, a chapter of the book it relates to, okay? And as you answer, an excellent answer, a good answer would be based on the case of the book and your judgment, you make a recommendation. But an excellent answer, what we're looking for, especially in the 3rd section, or the analysis, or especially the recommendation, is make reference to the things you have been taught in this unit. Okay? How does this reflect on your suggestion? Okay? Now, how did you study for this unit? There's the book, there is your lecture slides, and the comments of what we have discussed in class, that I presume a lot of you have noted down. And there's also articles on LMS. Now, the way I would study for this unit is you don't need to try and memorize, okay? When you read your chapter in the book, there's commonly you take 5 things, 5 common problems that small firms face, or 10 of this, or 5 lists of this and that. You don't need to memorize any of that. I need you to look at your book and try, say you read the whole chapter, what is it, 30, 40 pages, 20 pages, okay? And then when you close this chapter, basically the summary, what is it that you have gained from this chapter? How would you apply it if it was a real business that you were running? What are the key things that you take out of it? And if there's 1 or 2 key frameworks that we discussed about in class, make sure you understand the components of those key frameworks. Usually there will be key frameworks with 2 or 3 items that you need to remember for, okay? Not the pages of frameworks that the whole page is a framework and it's little bits and boxes everywhere. Okay? There's only 2 or 3 that we keep talking about in the class again and again and again. Okay? And when you study the different chapters, sometimes things interconnect. Okay? Like this chapter and all the previous ones. So when you read a chapter, what you read it in a critical fashion, and the questions you will be asked will be in this spirit. So there will be a lot of room for interpretation and for different answers. It won't be analysed that framework. That's not going to be the spirit of the questions. And if you have come in class and attended some of the guest lectures, go back to your notes and try and think critically as to how would this guest lecture relate possibly to some of the things you learned in this class, or how you could apply it in real life. Okay? There is some that as well in the exam. I want to stress that I've been through obviously a lot of exams in my life, you guys have, masters and PhDs and you name it, and I hated the final exam because it is a stressful situation and I really do not want to put you in that situation. If it was me, I would have had a very low percentage on the exam, and it's a 40%, it's not a 50%, and I had to fight for it to go to 40% because they have a minimum here at the business school. So, honestly, try not to stress too much. If you read the book in the critical spirit, try and have fun and see, because that's how you actually recall things. If you try and really see, is there anything that is of real value there, and try to remember that, it's more likely that you'll remember it longer term, okay? And it will show in the way you write your exams. So there's no need to stress. Most of you, even if that come here on a weekly basis, even if you didn't study at all, I guarantee you would score quite well in the exam. Okay? Maybe not at the level that you would want to, but you will pass. In order for you to score really well, you just need to refresh all these different aspects in the different chapters to make sure you have it on your list on certain things. And if you say very interested in scoring really well and you don't just want to get a pass and you want to do really well in this exam and you have certain questions, as you study, don't hesitate to email me and say, okay, is this important? I don't understand this aspect. I don't, and that's, yes?
Are there calculations?
Very, very basic. So you can bring the calculator in class with you, one of the approved ones. But even if you don't have a calculator, you can write the calculations yourself. Especially if you're an engineer, you can. I'm not sure what everybody has in class, but hoping that you can make basic division and multiplication. Yes. Well, what I was hoping to do is I'm giving you this week, next week I will be here from 3 to 5, and anyone that has questions or specific things that we can discuss, they can come and see me. Is anything unclear? And obviously you have all these articles that you can read, and it's extra material for you to have a look at. Yes?
Should we think of the guest lectures as essentially non-examinable?
No, it is examinable. But no, there will be, as I say, a lot of options. So you won't be asked about a specific guest lecture.
More about what, like, generally?
More about a general question about guest lectures in general, and then you can choose which one you want to focus on.
Yeah.
Okay? Which specific lecture or guest lectures.
How many
The number. If it's 40 or 50 or 60. I don't know. Sorry.
the short case can stop points on that line that actually
Okay, it really depends. I have no problem. If you think you can answer in a bullet point form, and some of the other questions you would be, in others you might need to also refer to some of the materials in the book to justify your option, but certainly, if you wanted a bullet, I have no concept of those It's not about the length, by the way, because a lot of people ask me how long should the answer be, should it be 2 pages, 3 pages. It's not about the answer or the length, it's about the content. So you should be able to answer the case, you should be able to answer the question in a couple of pages. Yeah, it won't be for a specific guest lecture. It won't be what did this person talk about in that context. It will be a question that you can answer, choosing, making a choice between the different lectures that you heard. Okay? So don't worry about that one because there's not much you can do about that. Okay? You can basically just read your notes. You can't really prepare about that as much. Read your notes, think about it, this lecture briefly. And then when you see the exam question, you answer. Okay? Maybe try and think, how does this relate to other things I heard that they're doing. Some of them make a better connection, others don't really make such a good connection. So you have a lot of choice to choose which one. Now, what I would do when you have the exam, because you know the 3 parts, you don't need to waste time in trying to, go through everything and read all the questions and waste time. What I would do is start with the first part, which is the multiple choice. Get it out of the way as quickly as you can. Even if you don't know the answer, circle something. Okay? invest your time in the other segments that need your time. Don't waste your time too much in the first week because although it's 40%, there are a lot of questions in there, so each one will count for something. Yes?
You know how there are additional like journal articles on LMS? Do we need to know them?
Again, because this is not a type of unit, you're not going to be examining on a specific article.
Yeah, but just have that knowledge to
But if you read them, maybe you personally will find 2 or 3 of them very interesting, and you'll find a way of including what these things say, if you think it is important, when you're answering some of the questions, some of those basic questions, okay? So it really depends on how much time you want to spend in studying for this unit and what kind of, outcome you want to achieve. So it's not necessarily to pass the unit, so you refer to those or you study those, but it might help you get a better grade and give you a bit of deeper understanding of some aspects of issues. Challenging answers. It's not a clear yes or no. Yes?
Are you going to be putting any past exams on sample?
No. Anyone else? Is that kind of stressful or is that reassuring? I don't know how people feel about this, but I guess what I'm trying to say is when you study critically and don't think that you'll be examining like a high school student that wants to know page 35, what was on page 35 of page 6 of the book. Okay, the book is reference material, not necessarily, that you quote specific things or copy specific things from the book for the final exam. It gives you what understanding of the subject and the questions you will be ask. Even if you didn't have the book, but you were well versed in the subject, you should be able to answer them. Now, yes?
And next week, in the lecture period, we're going to have a talk.
Next week in the lecture period, I'll probably repeat what I've said this week for the people that were not here this week and they are not here next week. And then I can have some of them questions if you have questions specific that they want answered. Yes?
Should we learn diagrams, or should we be able to draw some diagrams of questions?
No, you won't be asked to draw diagrams or reproduce. But having said that, maybe someone believes that a certain framework is very topical for the question and they want to draw the diagram. Okay? But you won't be asked specifically to use any frameworks or any of those materials. Now, okay, so next week, if anybody has more questions, feel free to come to the lecture and ask them. Just a minute, before we go, I wanted to do this week, the evaluations, because next week we might have very few of you